All right, welcome back everybody to the Daily Gems podcast. This is Michael. You know who it is. And it's another beautiful morning, and we are here with an amazing guest. And this individual I brought on because she thinks differently whenever it comes to creativity and whenever it comes to leadership. And there's a junction between there, whether you believe it or not, whether you know it or not. There's a junction between creativity and leadership, and how your leadership can actually improve by fostering that creativity. So I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this conversation. But before we go any further, I just want to do a little plug. All right. I always got to do a little plug. Go ahead before we get started. This time I'm going to do it at the beginning instead of the very end. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button, share this with a friend because this conversation is going to be 10 to 15 minutes of just pure gold. Whenever I say pure gold, I just mean it because this individual, she has an agency, she's worked in the creative space herself, but she just does what she teaches. She does what she teaches, and that's no cap. So listen, everybody, go ahead, subscribe, send it to a friend beforehand because they will not regret you sending it over to them. But so are you guys ready to get into some conversation about creative? Are you guys excited to get into the conversation about leadership? If so, grab a quick pen and paper. Today's going to be a little bit different. As you know, sometimes I kind of jump in and I'm, leading conversations by myself, but today I'm really excited for this. So, whew, welcome to the show,
Thank
Miss.
you.
I got to get the last name right. I was practicing this. I was going to try to say it. So you say it one time because I don't want to butcher the last name. All right. So go ahead, say your name, tell everybody, and then I'm going to practice live on here so you all know I care. I care. Okay.
Hi all, I'm Tania Jane Marias Vaz, but you can call me Tania
Marias,
Jane
right?
or
Did I say that right?
yeah, you
Oh,
got
I
it.
did it. I did it.
You did
Awesome.
it.
Cool. So listen, actually how I met this wonderful lady online. This was about a year back maybe, and we were talking about some copy and creative work that needed done. And so she jumped right on in and I started following her and I just love her story. I love how she really cares for her work. It's not like somebody, oh, I'm just a copywriter. I'm just a creative just because I need the money, but like her heart's truly in this. So welcome to the show. I'm excited to have this conversation. And so I want to get right into it. As you know, in the show, we just dive right on in. So there's some people here listening. They're online entrepreneurs, right? They're probably coaches, speakers, authors. They're different realms, right? And so you've been in the creative space for a long time and you've led teams, you've, been in many different roles. What is that junction and what do you feel like is, let me figure out how to say this. Creative and leadership. How do you feel like they even go together? Because if we were to talk about this a year ago before I even met you, I would say, what in the world are you talking about? Creative and leadership go together. Like, what does that even mean? So I want you to dive right on in. Let's talk about that. How do they cross pollinate? How do they even go together?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, to create is to be innovative and to forge a path that no one else has ever seen. And that's the commonality with leadership as well. Like, Simon Sinek always says leaders eat last, but leaders will go first. And here's the thing, when you give yourself permission to be creative, when you give yourself permission to just drop the should have, all the shoulds that are imposed on us, whether it's our own, whether it's societal, cultural, industry knowledge, and you just allow yourself to play in that realm of creative genius, whatever that idea is that's coming out of you, and you're so excited about it, and it's like you want to go initiate it, allow yourself to go there, figure out the conceptualization of it with your team and or your mentor, whoever is on your support team later, but let yourself go there, because what's going to happen when you play in that realm is you're going to be required to show up differently. You're going to be required to show up more powerfully because you have to take a stand for something. You have to be able to sell this to people. You have to be able to lead people with this movement. You're not building it based on someone else's blueprint. Sure, there's a hundreds and tens and thousands of strategies and best kept practices, but none of that matters if you don't have your own innovation.
Mm,
God gave us all the ability to be creative. We all have talents and gifts, but there's so few people in the online space, especially like that are actually innovating. All I see is the noise. And so when you find authors or when you find entrepreneurs that are like a step ahead of the curve, and by that I mean years ahead even of their industry, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for trailblazers, right?
Love it. So
Like
let's go
everyone,
into that. How do you become a trailblazer? Because I think in this world with the digital marketing, like everybody's just copying each other. Like I think that's where you're getting at, right? Is being original, being a trailblazer. So how does somebody come up with somebody that doesn't feel creative? This is just going down a rabbit hole here.
yeah,
Somebody
I mean,
doesn't
you
somebody
know,
doesn't feel creative. They feel like they're trying to find the blueprint, which I think following blueprints and frameworks are good, right? Like so where's the line like of becoming creative, following blueprints and like how do you foster new creativity?
for me personally, I like to just unplug from the noise. It's not that I'm not aware of market trends or like, revenue price points based on like what agencies are like, based on your offerings. I'm very well aware of what's going on, but I don't let that noise seep into me. And so for me, white space in my calendar is massively important. You can't be plugged into your laptop or to a phone all the time. And I don't care if your creativity is like building an Excel spreadsheet or systems and organization, or you're literally creative with like marketing and expression and art or music or sound or whatever. Everyone's creative. We all have different ways of solving the same problem. And it's like, what's your way of doing it? You're not going to find it looking at 100 other competitors. You got to be able to unplug from that noise, take a blueprint that actually maybe you feel resonant with, right? Like you like, I don't know, you like Gary Vee's 10 steps to blah, blah. Okay, take that blueprint, but make it your own. What's your way of doing this now? What is the sauce that you bring to the table, right? Get out into the real world. When I was rebuilding my agency last year, I actually got out of the online space. I know we connected online because a couple of friends tagged me and they're like, you'd be a perfect fit for this. And I'm like, great, no problem. And I did. But one thing that I told myself was, I'm going to give myself 90 days and put myself in a new room for the entire 90 days. The new room could be online. It could be me initiating a conversation with someone totally outside of my industry, or it could be me going door to door, brick and mortar, old school style, which is what marketers used to do, and actually do a focus group. And I did that. And so everything for me, from a creative standpoint and leading and being innovative with our agency, stemmed from that. You have to be able to unplug out of the noise in order to hear like that voice within you. Like in order to hear what God's calling you to do, you have to be able to unplug from it all.
Yeah, I like that. And I think you said like making room in your calendar is something that's big for a lot of us. And I'm going to be honest, that's something that if you look at my calendar right now, I
It's
have probably about 30 hours of meetings a week. And
yeah.
it's like, that's something I need to improve on. Is like, hey, how can I just set aside time to think, to plan, to let my mind roam? Because I found myself last night, it was 2 a.m. I
Yeah.
couldn't like actually it was probably 1 a.m. I was like thinking of new ideas. My creativity was flowing because that was the only time I had available that day to let it flow. So I love that thought. And it's so simple, so easy, but something that we neglect so much is creating space for ourselves just to think and just to take it
Yeah.
and run with it.
Yeah, because your leadership can't grow. Like I look at creativity as this portal to your prosperity, right? Because
Mm.
when we're creating something, even if it's like absolute garbage, okay, like we might not like it, but you're not, that's the first draft. That's a rough draft. You're going to constantly have different iterations, but you need space for that. So, simple things like one of the rules that I gave myself, and it has taken me over a decade to be able to come to this point, was nobody gets me in the mornings until 10 or 11 a.m. My days used to be full of meetings back to back. And then I'm like, well, I'm in a creative profession and I ghostwrite and I copyright and I design. And like, when do I have time to actually do the work that I'm hired to do if I'm sitting in on all these meetings?
Yep.
And then as you grow as a company and as a founder, now I'm like, okay, well, when do I have time to vision and grow this forward if I'm constantly in meetings? So I block out, there's maybe my rule is like 1 to 2 calls a day. My week is wide open because I like the flexibility, but it's like 1 to 2 calls a day, 2 p.m. I'm totally unavailable for anything client facing because I'm in mom mode. And then in the evenings is when my creativity hits and I'm like, okay, let's sit down with a book, whatever. But in the mornings, even if I'm not creating or if I'm not sitting at my desk, how can you create space for yourself, right?
Right.
Like whether it's praying, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's just having your cup of coffee without anybody vying for your time, I think is so important for a founder. Like give yourself think time, think days. Eventually, I'd like to have a think week where in a month, like nobody gets that week. It's just for me and the company.
I like that. I like that. Definitely good thoughts. Definitely good thoughts. Love it. And so what would be one last tip? So we know, we talked about just taking the frameworks that you see online, taking the blueprints that other people have put in place, but making them your own. And so as we end this out, because I like these to be short and actionable, we talked about, creating space in your calendar to be creative. What would be like one last piece of advice for somebody that's like, okay, cool. I like the conversation about taking proven concepts and making them my own. How would you recommend people do that as we go out of here? What would be one last piece of advice if somebody's here and said, hey, I want to be original. I want to be that
Yeah.
trailblazer. I want to make things with my own little spice on it. What would you recommend and how would you recommend they do that?
So I'll give you a tangible example. If you're someone that's like, hey, I want to be a leadership coach and coach executives and CEOs, there's tons of people that do that. Pick someone whose framework you can resonate with, that you like, that you've personally, grown with. Pick that framework, reverse engineer it back to yourself. What is your unique take on leadership? What is that one thing that you are willing, that hill that you're always going to be planted on? What is that one thing that you will be on that soapbox forever talking about? For me, it's leadership on how done for you service providers are treated and the whole dynamic of the hierarchy. There is no hierarchy. Everyone's a founder and a CEO. We're just here collaborating together. And that's what I've noticed in the coaching industry. So, what is your unique take on being a leader? Why should executives be coaching with you? What is something special that you can offer to them? And cultivate your message, your values, your mission around that. And then apply that blueprint, whether it's a course, whether it's a one to many, whatever it is, apply to yourself. I hope
Hmm.
that helps answer.
I love it. No, I love it. Apply it to yourself from there. Awesome. Amazing. Well, where can people follow you at? Because I want them to, be able to dive into maybe if they need agency work done, if
Yeah.
they want to follow offline and just, let you know you did a great job. Where can people connect with you and just let them know so they can take this offline with you?
Absolutely. I predominantly am on Instagram. Just that's because that's an artistic platform, in my opinion, where we get to showcase work and thought leadership. So elixirmedia.co. And then on Facebook, it's just my name, Tania Jane Moraes Vaz. And then same thing on LinkedIn. So those are the three places that I'm on. Come connect, ask me any questions. I'm pretty much an open book.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for coming in here and just providing a new insight. We try to
Thank
bring
you.
people on every morning, just that different perspectives, right? I think it's good just to hear sometimes we may have heard this stuff in the past, but just hearing it again with a new perspective is always positive and always a good thing. So thank you for being here. Thank you for pouring into our audience. I love your heart and I love your mission that you're on. If you ever need anything from me, let me know. I'm here
Absolutely.
to serve you and help you. And everybody, make sure you go check out her site and go hit her up online. Let her know you came from the show. But again, guys, this was another episode of the Daily Gems podcast. Hope you all found it valuable. Like I said, share it with a friend. You never know who needs this information, who needs these words of encouragement. So, with that being said, everybody have a great day. Thank you so much for coming
Thank you,
on. This was
Michael.
amazing. We will see you all right here tomorrow morning back for another episode and go crush the day. We'll see you very soon. Peace.
Bye.